Chandler. I'm coming for you. So Rambo First Blood Part 2 tells the story of John Rambo being pardoned for his crimes in the original film, sent back to Vietnam, reinstated into the army to search for American POWs. Back and continuing on with the Rambo series, everybody, if you missed my review of First Blood, please check that out as well. That one's already live. And if you missed that one, you were unaware, this is actually a collaboration review series that I'm doing with Sean Chandler from Sean Chandler Talks About. So we already did the first review together last week. Every single one of these reviews leading up to the release of Last Blood here in a couple of weeks, as well as probably our rankings and maybe even a spoiler chat. We'll have to work that one out. We're going to be releasing all this stuff at the same time. So his link is down below for his review. It is live right now, the same exact second that mine is live. So once you're done watching this video, check out this link down below. Go over to Sean Chandler Talks About, give him a like, give him a share, give him a subscribe, especially tell him Cody Leach sent you, and check out his thoughts as well. And this one is going to be one of those reviews in this series that I think you're going to see a lot of different thoughts on this film between me and between Sean, because while we kind of aligned pretty damn well, scarily well actually, on First Blood, which we tend to do a lot, this one and probably the third one are films that I didn't quite grow up with, whereas Sean grew up with them and has been big fans of them for a long time. So you're gonna have kind of the nostalgia aspect from him. Me, a lot of what I'm gonna say for this film as well as the third one is watching these for, in fact, the second time ever in my life. So like I said, once you're done with this review, go check out Sean, get that other perspective. Now with all that being said, yes, this is the second time that I've ever seen this film, Rambo First Blood Part 2. First time was when I was like maybe 18 or 19. It was right after the fourth one came out. So I was on a Rambo high at the time. I revisited First Blood, which is a movie that I had already watched numerous times at that point. Popped in 2, popped in 3 for the first times. I'll save my thoughts for 3 later, but 2 I wasn't the biggest fan of at the time when I first saw it, because it's a very different movie from First Blood, which I'll get into. I rewatched it for the first time ever since then, just a couple days ago in preparation for this review. Enjoyed it more. Kind of looked at it through a different lens, being that I'm older, being that I do this now. But yes, this is a very, very different direction than First Blood was. We'll get that out of the way now. But talking about strictly positives with First Blood Part 2, there's a lot of action in this movie. This is one of the most prolific, one of the most successful action films of the 80s. This came out in '85, so right there in the middle of the 80s. And it still holds up pretty well. You know, it's a lot of practical explosions. It's a lot of, you know, guerrilla warfare stuff that you would expect the character of Rambo to do, even though it wasn't exactly what they were going for with the first movie. The scene in the first movie where he's in the jungle and he's doing all of like the traps and the knife play and everything, that's kind of the whole movie here. You add in a bow and arrow with explosive arrows, you add in an entire army of Viet Cong as well as the Soviets for him to take out one by one, and it's a much more action-centric movie. Not necessarily going for thrills, not necessarily going for drama or even really character or story so much in this one. This one is full-on entertainment, explosions, blood, gore. And for some people, that might be exactly what they want from this franchise. That might be exactly what they wanted in '85 when they got Rambo First Blood Part 2. They said, this is what I wanted from a Stallone war veteran action movie. I also do like the setting of Vietnam. You know, like I said, one of my favorite scenes in that first movie was when he's in the jungle. This is the entire movie now. He's in Vietnam, he is in the jungle, there's waterfalls, there's muddy water, there's parts where he has to kind of cake himself up like Arnie and Predator. A lot of that aesthetic of Rambo in the jungle doing his thing, I like. It's shot well, it's utilized pretty well. There's not a whole lot of locations, you know, it tends to go back and forth to a camp quite a few times, so it's kind of small scale as far as that goes, but the aesthetic of seeing John Rambo in the jungle is cool, and I do like this movie for that. And I like the relationship that he gets with this young Viet Cong woman named Ko, I believe was her name.
You take me with you? You take me?
She's kind of on his side. She starts helping him. They develop a little bit of a romance, and spoiler alert, but whenever you kind of finally get to that romance section where, you know, he kisses her, she asks him to please take her back to America, he promises her to. Minutes later, she's gunned down. And that actually surprised me. I don't remember that the first time that I saw it, and it actually hit me. Rewatching it when that happened, I was like, oh shit, that sucks. And it works emotionally. It gives you something to kind of, that whole aspect of Rambo's character where he's got PTSD over loss, and, you know, he's very mentally focused on all of his friends and what he considers brothers that fell to Vietnam, and now he's back in Vietnam and lost somebody else. It hits you, and it makes the story progression from then on in the rest of the movie, wherever he kind of goes full on guns blazing, partially because he wants to get rid of the Viet Cong. He wants to win Vietnam in whatever way he can, get these POWs out, but also because of the heartbreak of losing this woman. I thought that worked really well. I liked their relationship. I like the way that she kind of helps him escape. And then, you know, that whole aspect of her character being inserted into here, it worked for me. I even liked Troutman when he came back. This one, again, he's kind of just behind the scenes. It's not till the third one we actually get to see kind of on-screen chemistry between these two characters for the most of the film. But you get in 2, and he's the one who goes and gets Rambo out of this prison camp. He's the one that inserts him into this mission. He's the one who's kind of like the one that he trusts that's in command. There's everybody else who's kind of higher up than Troutman, who's kind of running the show, but Troutman is basically the one line of communication directly to Rambo in this mission. So their kind of interaction, him being back, him being brought back and kind of kept as the second biggest, second most prominent character in this film series, I like that aspect as well.
You remember Murdoch said he's with the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines at Khartoum in '66?
Yeah.
The 2nd Battalion was like Fred sank. You're the only one I trust.
And you know, there's a kind of a fun, nostalgic aspect to Sylvester Stallone giving us a movie where he wins the Vietnam War for all intents and purposes, because this also came out the same year as Rambo or Rocky IV, where in that movie he kind of ends the Cold War on his own. So, you know, Sylvester Stallone saving America one movie at a time. Now moving on to the mixed aspects, and really the predominant one here is kind of the 80s macho cheese, because I like the nostalgic aspect of it. It's definitely a product of its time. There was plenty of that. And God knows, if I had grown up watching this movie, that would probably be one of my favorite parts to revisit. God knows I love Commando, and that movie is dumb as hell, but I love every little piece of cheesy macho BS that's in it. You get to this one and you get, like, you know, the whole thing where Rambo's lacing up his headband, and you get the microphone scene, I'm coming for you, Murdoch. Like, all that stuff is so 80s macho action hero, just stuff that we see everywhere in that era. And it doesn't quite fit into how I view the Rambo series. Like I said, I love First Blood. That's kind of my version of Rambo. That's the one that I want. That's the one that I kind of hone in on, the more psychological aspect of the character, the broken man, the anti-hero, not the macho, built up, covered in glistening sweat with the headband and yeah, dropping one-liners type of Rambo. Again, I know people love this version. This is the most successful installment in this franchise thus far. I think the new one might beat it, but this is the version of Rambo that is definitely for entertainment value, not necessarily for character-driven storylines. So mixed aspect, I'm entertained by it. I like it, I can dig it. It's just not quite what I want from Rambo. And now moving on to the negatives for Rambo First Blood Part 2, and the predominant one here is the plot, the story, the script. There's not a whole lot here to chew on. The First Blood, one of the biggest things that I love about it is the story, and, you know, how it kind of focuses on the psychology of the character and all the PTSD, and talking about the products of its time with the Vietnam and the way that America viewed Vietnam soldiers and even the abuse of power, all that kind of wrapped up into this really nice story, this really great character. Here, you don't really have much of a plot. They take Rambo out of prison, throw him into the jungle and say, rescue people. And it's just action from there on. It's explosions, it's blood, it's guerrilla warfare, it's the jungle. There's not really a whole lot story-wise with this one. There's just basically eye candy. It's all macho Sylvester Stallone doing what he does in movies like this in this time, in this era of the middle of the 80s. Which to me, with the way that I like these movies to be, with what I love so much about First Blood, is a big step down from that first film. Yes, they amp up the budget, they amp up the eye candy, the explosions, the scale as far as the action, but to me, it's at the sacrifice of story, at the sacrifice of character, at the sacrifice of plot. And I'm not somebody that likes to sacrifice those things for very much. I also feel like John Rambo as a character is not nearly as interesting in this one. He's basically just tough guy. He's big, muscular 80s hero. And even this version of Rambo kind of became the cliche or the butt of a joke going forward with the cliche of what an action hero should be with films like Hot Shots and everything, where they play directly into that aesthetic. And I just like all of the psychology, all the psychology of the character, the depth of the character feels like it's lost in this. There's pieces of it. It's not like he's a bad character. It's just, this is the most superficial version of John Rambo that you're gonna get. It's just tough guy that can kick ass. And that's basically all you get in this film is that. From the beginning all the way to the end, with the one-liners, the tough guy speeches, shoving the knife down into the table right next to Murdoch and everything. It just, even at the end when they try to give the little scaled back version of the speech from the first film where Troutman asks him a question and Rambo just unloads, and this one he asks him a question and Rambo just kind of gives a little bit more of a cliche answer, a little bit, you know, America rocks answer, and then walks away to the credits. So it's just, it's all a lot more superficial with the character and not so much the introspective aspect that I really like about the way they used him in First Blood.
I want what they want. And every other guy who came over here and spilt his guts and gave everything he had once for our country to love us as much as we love it. That's what I want.
And my final negative, being that I do not have nostalgia for this film, I feel like the datedness of it definitely stands out a lot more than it did with the first film, where I was talking about in my first review where a lot of the themes that they were going for in that one can still be carried over today, and that film ages very well because of that. You can watch it and you can hone in on the Vietnam stuff, or you could just hone in on PTSD in general, treatment of soldiers, abuse of power, police brutality, so many things that still ring true today and are still big, very passionate topics. But just standard 80s action film against standard Viet Cong army, it doesn't really age very well because that's so far removed from where we are today that I feel like people that watch this film for the first time today aren't going to latch on to what they're going for with this film, aside from just cool looking action, as well as they would the story and the themes that they went for with the first one. So this one definitely dates itself a lot more as that mid-80s action film. And being I don't have any nostalgia, it stood out a little bit as a negative when I was watching it. It felt a little dated. But with all that being said, guys, this is still an entertaining action film. This is definitely not one of my favorites. Like I said, I didn't grow up watching this one, but it is a film that I would not have a problem rewatching. There's definitely entertainment value. There's some nice gore, and as far as like bodies exploding, there's some cool Rambo action. I liked the introduction of the character of Co and kind of their relationship and the tragedy of all of that. And it's just a fun movie that I think was only made to be fun and entertaining, and that still holds true. So even though some aspects are dated, even though it definitely takes a dip in story and in plot quality, it's still an entertaining movie that I feel like does stand the test of time as far as the action entertainment side of things. So if you enjoyed the first one, definitely expect a change of pace, expect a little bit more action, a little bit less story, but if you like the character and if you like Stallone's movies, there's a lot of entertainment to be had with Rambo First Blood Part 2. So check this thing out online and stream it. So what do you guys think of Rambo First Blood Part 2? Is this your favorite in the series? Is this the type of movie you like to see Rambo in that's just full-on slam-bang action? Or are you somebody that was maybe disappointed with the lack of story and the kind of dropping the depth of the character in order for just macho 80s action stuff? What is your thoughts on Rambo First Blood Part 2? Do you have nostalgia for it? Did you watch it later on like I did and don't quite have that? let me know down below your thoughts for this first sequel. Please like and share this video, hit that subscribe button, be sure to go over to Sean Chandler Talks About. His video link is down in the description below, and like and subscribe over there as well. Tell him Cody sent you over. And down in the video description, you're also gonna see social media links for me, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You got my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help this channel grow, and get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron. And also right below the video description, you'll see, just by scrolling down, my Teespring shelf. So all of my merchandise, all the designs designed by my buddy Woody Bowen, all that stuff is right there. There's shirts, bags, coffee mugs, all kinds of different things. Click on that, check it out. Another way to support the channel and get cool merchandise. So check that out, please. And if you guys want to see some more of my reviews, including my review for First Blood, you can check that out by clicking right over here.